Last week, Kelly made an awesome video and wrote an awesome article about using Pinterest for building character. In a moment out of character for me, I'm tackling the world building side of things. So today we're going to talk about using Pinterest as a way of building your world and making it a little bit easier on yourself to imagine things visually that you need to write down on paper. First up, you should be using Pinterest for your exterior references. If you've got real world equivalents to things that you're putting in your book, whether it's an actual location or landmark, a kind of house or neighborhood or school, now you have a clear point of reference that you can go back to and at first just literally describe what you're seeing. Sometimes I don't want to be creative. I just want to say house that looks like this generally. And then once I find one, just write down what I see. Once I start getting into the phase where I'm ready to start differentiating things and making it my own, that's when I'll go back through. But it's helpful to have a starting point, kind of like tracing a picture when you're drawing, but with words. Next up, let's go inside the house and get some interior references. So I've spoken before about how I use set design in my experience as a filmmaker to better imagine the spaces that I find myself and my characters in. And this is another helpful way of doing that because most production designers wouldn't go into the filmmaking process without some kind of mood board or reference table, and neither should you, especially if descriptions are a little bit challenging for you, like they are for me. Because inventing a fake house and a fake floor plan and a fake room within that house is a lot, especially if this is not your strong suit. So I will just start searching for the kind of room that I'm in. Teenager's bedroom, studio apartment with bed nook. And as I narrow it down, I start to find rooms that generally are going to suit my needs. And then once again, I save those all to their own section. Essentially it's folders, but they call them sections because they're sections of your board. And I will start picking and choosing from those interior references what I like. If I have multiple defining locations within a book, then I will make a section for each of them so that when I need to know, all right, what was generally the vibe of this room? Where is the bed placed? All that good stuff. I can just go to the respective room of my interior board and look. I will also sometimes save important items that appear in this room into the Pinterest board, both for just visual reference as well as to remind me that they're there and to set a tone for the space. So if there's a particular kooky lamp or there's a lot of snow globes or there's a lot of plants, whatever it is that is the iconography of this space for you, I like to add that in as well. I'm essentially creating an interior design mood board for each individual space that I'm going to. So I already kind of mentioned this, but iconic objects is also something I found to be really helpful in creating a mood world building board on Pinterest for your latest project. What are the objects that have important narrative resonance in your story? What might pepper your characters' homes, offices, streets, worlds around them that evoke a sense of theme and tone for the overall piece? I oftentimes look to Pinterest as a way to get back into projects that I've taken a pause on or have been away from for a while because I'm working on something else, and kind of looking through all of the objects, all of the spaces helps ground me in that world again, especially if what I had been writing before is very different tonally or aesthetically from what I'm going for in this piece. It helps ground me, and iconic objects can do that as well. All of these things can help create a collage of tone and of important elements that help remind you, oh right, watches are really important in this story. Have I mentioned the character's watch in a while? Whoopsie daisy, maybe I should go back to that. I also find that spaces can sometimes be abstract, but the items within those spaces and the objects that the characters can touch and feel and interact with make the world a little bit more tactile and also open up new opportunities for things your characters can be doing in scenes versus just sitting in a static place and having a conversation. Research is also a really great way to use Pinterest for world building. So probably this wouldn't be the most useful way to compile all of your research if you're doing a very research heavy project like historical fiction, for instance. You probably want a slightly more traditional bibliography for that. And lucky for you, Kelly has an awesome video and article again about historical starter docs where she explains how she organizes her research, and I found it very helpful, even as someone who will probably never do that because, scary. But for the little bit of research that I do that is different from the exterior reference research and things like that, Pinterest is very helpful for me because I'm a much more visual learner than I am a textual learner, if that's a differentiation that exists. I will make a section, and anything that I needed to research for this particular project, especially if it has a visual component, I include there. So for the paranormal romance I wrote a couple of years ago that I've been referencing and using screenshots from for this video, I had to do a lot of research into like healing properties of herbs and flowers, what kinds of stones have what kinds of resonances, because I was trying to have at least some level of like real world grounding for the various curse breaking methodologies that we used in that book. And so I needed a place to keep all of those references. And also sometimes I wanted to go aesthetically on something. So having the visual version of like a list of protective herbs also gave me a sense of like, okay, so that's what that herb looks like. Not only can I now use that to describe it, but I like the look of that, so I might want to use that a little bit more. And this will visually remind me, right, we have this thing. I've also used Pinterest to pin particular recipes that characters are using that I consider part of research. And that way, when I need the character to like go through the recipe, I don't have to go searching for, which Irani chai recipe did I use for this? How much goat's milk should he be boiling? I just have it right there, neatly tucked away in its own little section. Finally, color, which can have a big impact on the kind of board and world that you're creating here. So this is another thing that I gleaned from my time as a filmmaker about how important color is to theme and tone. So think about it. Is your project more saturated, bright and bold colors? Is it more muted? Is it more earth tones? What colors represent this world for you? What colors represent specific characters? Again, a big way that I use Pinterest for world building is just to ground me in that world. So having a consistent color palette that is representative of the kind of thing I want my story to evoke can be a really helpful way of doing that. Also, not for nothing, but when you eventually start working with your cover designer for your project and your branding and all that kind of stuff, already having a general sense of the color palette that inspired the project could be really helpful to give to them. So that's Pinterest for world building. Hopefully that was helpful to you. And if you have additional ways that you've used this tool for world building purposes, I'd love to hear them. So leave us a comment. As always, there is a slightly expanded article version of this video in the description box down below. So definitely check that out. And if you're not already a subscriber to the Rogue MFA on Substack, make sure you become one. Paid subscribers get bonus content and templates and all sorts of other stuff that we are just now starting to roll out. So you want to be a member, you want to be a member now. But even if you're just a free member over there, you get a new article and video every single Thursday, and we can't wait to see you around.